Question 1a. Here is a number line. What number is at x? So we have x marked here, so we need to figure out what each of these intervals on the number line are worth. So what is it counting up in? So to go from 0 to 20, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals that we pass. Well, 20 divided by 4, remember, it's a calculator paper. Use your calculator. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So each of these are worth 5. So that would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and then 40. So x is at 35. 1b. Here is a different number line. What number is at y? So this time we need to be careful because we're starting with a negative number, going to 0 and then going to 6. So from negative 6 to 0, it's still going 6. So we're going up 6. So let's see how many intervals there are. 1, 2, 3 to get to 0. So we're going to do 6 divided by 3 at this point. Again, if you need to, double check it on your calculator. Better safe than sorry on this calculator paper. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So each of these intervals have gone up 2 spaces. So from -6 up 2 would be -4. This is why we need to be careful. And then from -4 we would go to -2, then 0, 2, 4 and 6. So y is at -2. Question 2. Match each expression on the left with the simplified expression on the right. One has been done for you. So they've matched 14a subtract 2a with 12a because 14a subtract 2a is equal to 12a once we simplify it, when we collect those like terms. What you'll notice is there's more boxes on this side than here. So we're not going to need to use all of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down this left-hand side and I'm going to simplify each of these expressions. So 3a add 4a is 7a in total. 3a times 3a, so 3 times 3 is 9. A times a would be a squared. 6 times 3a, 6 times 3, 18. A, and then 12a divided by 4. Well, 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that would leave me with 3a. So now I know what they simplify to, I can match them up to the other side. So 3a plus 4 is going to get matched to 7a. 3a multiplied by 3a is going to get matched to 9a squared. 6 multiplied by 3a is going to match to 18a, and then 12a divided by 4 is going to get matched to 3a, and we didn't need to use that last box there at the bottom. Question 3. Here are some shapes. Each shape has an area of 6 square centimetres. 3a. Which has the bigger perimeter, shape A or shape B? You must show the lengths of both perimeters. So we're using shape A and shape B, and we're going to find out the perimeter. So, perimeter of shape A. So we're going to count all the way around the outside the shape. So the perimeter is all the way around the outside. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the perimeter of A is 14. We're now going to do the same, but this time for B, so we can compare them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I've numbered them as I was going round. 1, to make sure I didn't miss any of the sides of the squares, and 2, to make sure that if I lost my train of thought or I lost concentration, I didn't forget where I'd gotten to. So the perimeter of A is 14, the perimeter of B is 12, so the bigger perimeter is shape A. 3b. Which shape is congruent to shape A. So congruent means exactly the same. It may be rotated, so it may be a different orientation, but congruent means it's exactly the same shape. All of the sides are the same length, so we could put one shape on top of the other and they would match. So we're going to find out which shape this is. The best way to do this is using tracing paper. You're allowed tracing paper in your exams, so when you go into your mock exams and things in the future, if you don't have it on your exam desk, then ask for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace round shape A, and then I'm going to use this as a template and pop it on the other shapes to see if it's the same shape or not. Okay, so B is definitely not the same shape. And C is definitely not the same shape because these two squares that are stuck out are on the same side, whereas on shape A, those two squares are on opposite sides. So D has squares on opposite sides and F has squares on opposite sides. I'm going to ignore these three. So we're going to use this piece of tracing paper and see if we can fit it exactly on top of either of these. So let's start with shape D. So if I stick it like this at the moment, it doesn't match. If you can see there, those squares. But if I flip it over, it fits on top exactly. So that tells me that A and D are congruent. So I'm going to pop D on the answer line and I'm just going to double check F. So if I pop the shape on that way, then this square matches, but this square here is on the wrong end of the shape. So I know that F is definitely not congruent. So always ask for tracing paper in your exams, your mock exams, assessments, etc., because it's a really useful piece of kit and you can have it. 3C. Which two shapes fit together to make a rectangle? Now, B isn't going to fit with any of these other shapes to make a rectangle. F, A and D have got these side pieces that are going to be annoying, so they're not going to fit. So I'm looking like it's going to be E and C, but again I can check, because what I can do is I can trace over one of them with my tracing paper, and then I can see if I put it together if it's going to form that rectangle, and it does. So for part C, E and C fit together to make a rectangle. Okay, 3D. On this grid, draw a reflection of shape C and show your mirror line. So we can reflect this shape anywhere, so you just need to draw yourself a mirror line. So that's just a line you're going to reflect this shape over. So I'm just going to draw a line here, and what I've done is I've made sure that it's exactly a full square away, not halfway through a square, because that makes my life a little bit more difficult to be accurate. And then I'm going to reflect this shape over this line. So if I take this corner of the shape, it's one square away, so it needs to be one square away on the other side of the line. If I take this corner of the shape, one square away, so it needs to be one square on the other side of the line. So I can then draw the first part of my shape. This next one is 1, 2, 3 squares away, so 1, 2, 3 squares away for that top side. And then at this point, you can either draw the shape in or you can do it a point at a time. So this corner here, 1, 2, 1, 2, so that's going to be there. And then once you see the shape forming, draw the rest of it in, or map all the corners of the shape and then draw it in. So it doesn't matter where you draw that mirror line, as long as you draw it and you reflect over it. But remember to make sure it's on an exact line. You don't want it like partway through a square, because that gets a little bit messy. Question 4. Points P and Q are shown on the grid. So we've got P and Q. Write down the coordinates of P. So for the coordinates, we go along the x-axis first. So P lines up with 4 on the x, so that's the first part of our coordinate. And then we go to the y-axis and P is opposite 3. So the coordinate of P is 4, 3. 4b, angle PQR is a right angle. Work out possible coordinates for R. So angle PQR, so PQ, R needs to be over here somewhere, so we could do the angle inside. And a right angle means that we want the line that would be made with Q to R to be perpendicular. It wants to go off at that right angle. So if we were to add a line here, it doesn't ask us to, but if we were to add a line, R could be any point on this line because they're all at a right angle here for angle PQR. So we can pick any of these points to read off the coordinate and we're going to get this mark. So let's just go with this point here. So X first is 2 and then the Y is minus 3. So 2 minus 3 for our coordinate there. Question 5a. A shop sells bottles of orange juice. Each bottle costs 75 pence. Work out the greatest number of bottles that can be bought with £5. So I want to see how many 75 pences will fit into £5. So £5 as a decimal would be that. And then 75 pence as a decimal would be this. So I'm going to do £5 divided by 0.75. It's a calculator paper. So 5 divided by 0.75 is 6.66 recurring. Now it wants the greatest number of bottles that can be bought with £5. We can only buy 6. This whole number part here is the most we could buy at 75 pence a bottle because we can't buy 0.6 recurring of a bottle. So the greatest number of bottles that can be bought is 6. 5b. 2 shops sell bottles of apple juice. Shop X has a pack of 4 bottles. It was £2.50, but there's now 10% off. Shop Z has a pack of 12 bottles for £7. At which shop is it cheaper to buy 24 bottles? Show working to support your answer. So we're going to work out how much 24 bottles would be for each shop. So I'm going to start with shop Z. So 12 bottles, proportion table again, I like these. For £7 we get 12 bottles. If we want 24 bottles we need to multiply it by 2. We need to double it, and then 7 times 2 is 14. So shop Z would be £14 for 24 bottles. Now we're going to look at shop X. This one's a little bit trickier. So we get 4 bottles for £2.50, but there's 10% off. So the first thing we need to do is find 10% of £2.50. So to find 10% we divide by 10. So £2.50 divided by 10 is equal to 0.25. So that's 25 pence. So we're going to get 25 pence off that. So £2.50, subtract that 0.25. Is £2.25. Remember, this is for 4 bottles, okay? So if we're doing a proportion table again, so for £2.25 we get 4 bottles. We want 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6, so we would times by 6. So we need to do that on the other side to find out the total cost in shop X. So 2.25 times by 6 is £13.50. So shop Z is £14 and shop X is £13.50. £13.50 is less than £14, so it's cheaper to buy the bottles at shop X. Question 6. A game has 4 cards labelled A, B, C and D. Ellie picks 2 of the cards at random. Complete the list of 6 possible pairs of cards that she could pick. So she could pick A and B, A and C, A and D, B and C, B and D, and then C and D. So we're not repeating letters because she's only picking the cards once, but there's our 6 possible pairs. So we've gone through AC and AD, and then BC and BD, and then CD. Question 7a. Complete the boxes using 2 different even numbers and 2 different odd numbers. So we've got 4 numbers in total that are being added together to make a total of 46. We want 2 of the numbers to be even and 2 of the numbers to be odd. So I'm going to start by picking 2 even numbers. So let's pick 6 and 4. Well, 6 plus 4 equals 10. 46 subtract 10 equals 36. So these 2 boxes need to add to 36, but I need them both to be odd numbers now, and I need them to be different odd numbers. So I'm going to pick an odd number. So let's say 11. So if I pop 11 in that box, 36 subtract 11 is 25. 25 is an odd number, so then I can add that in the box there. 2 even numbers and 2 odd numbers. Let's double check that they add to 46. So 6 plus 4 plus 11 plus 25 equals 46. Good. So we're going to use those numbers. 7b. Complete the boxes using a factor of 12 and a factor of 40. So we want a factor of 12 and a factor of 40 that are going to multiply together to give us an answer of 30. So let's start by writing the factors of 12. So I'm going to list them as factor pairs. So we can have 1 times 12, 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. And then I'm going to list the factors of 40. So we can have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8. And then we would get back round to 8 times 5, 10 times 4. So that's our factor pairs of 40. So I need one of these and one of these that's going to multiply together to make 30. So 3 times 10 is 30. 3 is a factor of 12. 10 is a factor of 40. So it meets the criteria. So 3 times 10 equals 30. 7c. Complete the boxes using a square number and a prime number. So we're looking for a square number and a prime number that's going to give us an answer of 18 when we divide them. So square numbers. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36. Okay, so we've got some square numbers there. Let's list some prime numbers. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19. So let's see if we can make any of these work. So I want one of these numbers divided by one of these numbers to get 18. Okay, so if I do 36 divided by 2, that gives me 18. So our square number is 36 and our prime number is 2. Question 8. 93 people were asked if they played online games one day. The frequency tree shows some information about their answers. So this is our frequency tree. So we have a total of 93 people. 48 people said yes to playing a game. And then here we've got, following on from that, if they played more than one game or not. 8A, 75% of the people who answered yes played one game. Complete the frequency tree. So first of all, I'm going to complete this bubble. So these two bubbles should add to 93 because the branches connect them to that first bubble. So if I do 93 subtract 48, that tells me that there should be 45 inside that bubble. Next, I need to fill these two. I know they need to add to 48, but I don't have any of them yet, which is where this statement is important. 75% of the people who answered yes played one game. So this is if they played more than one game. So if they played more than one game, they're in this bubble. But if they only played one game, they're in this bubble. So that's 75% of these people is in that bubble, and it's 75% of 48. So to find 75% of 48, we can multiply 48 by 0.75 because that is the multiplier for 75%. So that tells us that there are 36 people in that bubble. And then for here, we're going to do 48 subtract 36 because these two bubbles should add up to 48. So 48 subtract 36 would give us 12, and we've completed all of the spaces in that frequency tree now. Notice I used my calculator. It's there, it's a calculator paper. I've written what I've typed into my calculator down as working out, but I've made sure that my answers are correct. 8B. One of the 93 people is chosen at random. The probability that they use social media is more than 0.68. What is the smallest possible number of people who use social media? So we need to find out how many of these 93 people use social media. So we're going to take that probability and we're going to multiply it by 93. So 0.68 multiplied by 93 gives us an answer of 63.24. We can't have 0.24 of a person, so we're going to round that to 64. Now this probability says the probability that they use social media is more than 0.68. So because it's more than, that's why we've rounded to 64. And that 64 is the smallest possible number of people that use social media. If we went higher than 64, we wouldn't have the smallest, because 64 is the next whole number when we're dealing with the more than inequality. 9A. The cost of a TV streaming service is £6 per month for the first 4 months, then £11 per month for the rest of the year. Work out the total cost for the year. So we're dealing with a full year, so we're dealing with 12 months. That's an important fact to know. So for the first 4 months, they're paying £6. So 6 times 4 means £24 for the first 4 months. Now, 12 take away 4 tells us that there are 8 months left to pay for. So for those remaining months, they're paying the £11 a month fee. So we're doing 11 times 8, which is £88. And it wants the total cost. So we're going to add those two amounts together, and the total cost is £112. 9B. A TV series has 10 episodes. 9 episodes are 50 minutes long. 1 episode is 1 hour 42 minutes long. Work out the total length of the series. Give your answer in hours and minutes. So 9 episodes at 50 minutes. So 9 times 50 is 450 minutes in total. Now our answer says it wants hours and minutes, so we're going to do 450 divided by 60, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So if we divide that by 60, we get 7.5. So that's 7 hours, 30 minutes, because 0.5, half of an hour is 30 minutes. So 7 hours, 30 minutes for the first 9 episodes. And then that one episode is 1 hour and 42 minutes long. So we need to find the total of these two. So 7 hours plus 1 hour is 8 hours. 30 minutes plus 42 minutes. 30 plus 42 is 72. So it's 72 minutes. So we need, this has gone above 60. So we need to now convert that into hours and minutes as well. So if we subtract 60 from 72, that's 1 hour to add on. So we've got 9 hours and then the remaining 12 minutes. So our answer is 9 hours, 12 minutes for the full series. 10A. There are 1,020 books in a box. 2/5 of the books are blue. How many are blue? So we're going to find 2/5 of 1,020. So first of all, we're going to do 1,020 divided by 5. Which is 204. So that's 1/5. And then if I multiply 204 by 2, tells me that there are 408 blue books. 10B. There are green pens and red pens in the box. The ratio of green to red is 4:3. So green to red, just to make it clear to myself. What fraction of the pens are green? Well, the ratio 4 plus 3 has 7 parts in total. So the denominator of our fraction needs to be 7. The green part of the ratio is 4, so the numerator needs to be 4. So the fraction of pens that are green is 4/7. 10C. There are some calculators in the box. 220 are scientific, 30 are not. What percentage of the calculators are scientific? So if we do 220 plus 30, this is going to tell us how many calculators in the box altogether. So that's 250 calculators in total. 220 of them are scientific calculators. So 220 out of 250 are scientific. We want a percentage, so we're going to multiply that by 100. So we can use our fraction button, 220, 250, arrow away from the fraction, multiplied by 100, which gives us 88% that are scientific. So we'll write 88 on our answer line. Question 11. Here is a Venn diagram. So we have a set of 60 people. H are the people who own a gaming headset. So we've got H, and that's this circle of the Venn diagram here. W here are people who own a smartwatch. So that circle are people who own smartwatches. 11A, 15 of the people own a smartwatch. Complete the Venn diagram. So if 15 people own a smartwatch, they need to be in the W circle. But what we need to remember is that 7 is already included in that circle. So we're going to do 15 subtract 7. So 15 subtract 7 equals 8. So we need 8 to go there. So we have a total of 15 in our smartwatch circle. Now we need to fill in this missing part at the bottom. So we need to find the total of the 3 numbers that are in the circle. So 24 plus 7 plus 8 is 39. But we've been told there are 60 people in total. So 60 subtract 39 is 21. So 21 go on the outside of the Venn diagram. One of the 60 people is chosen at random. What is the probability that they both own both a gaming headset and a smartwatch? So we've got 60 people in total, so we're going to have 60 on the bottom of our fraction, and then we want those that own a gaming headset and a smartwatch, so that's this intersection in the middle, so we're going to put 7 on top, so it's 7 out of 60. 11C. Marek is going to buy a gaming headset that costs £35. He already has £19. He plans to save the rest in 2 equal amounts over the next 2 weeks. He uses this method to work out in pounds how much to save each week. What is wrong with his method? So what's wrong with his method is he hasn't taken into account order of operations. So what he's wanting to do is subtract the £19 that he already has from 35 and then split it into 2 equal parts. So what we should have is a pair of brackets there so that he subtracts the £19 that he has before he then divides by 2. So needs brackets. Question 12. Kai says that 3 to 2 is an equivalent ratio to 9 to 6. Joe says that 1.5 to 1 is an equivalent ratio to 9 to 6. Who is correct? Tick one box. So the options that we have are both of them are correct, only Kai is correct, only Joe is correct, and neither of them are correct. And it wants you to give reasons for your answer. Now, when it says give reasons, it doesn't necessarily have to be a worded sentence. You can just show some kind of working out that shows why you've picked the option you pick. So they think that 3 to 2 is equivalent to 9 to 6. So let's see. 3 to 2. Okay. So if I was to multiply 3 by 3, I would get 9. With ratio, we have to do the same to both sides. So if I multiply 2 by 3, I get 6. So Kai is correct. Now we need to see if Joe is correct. So we're starting with 1.5 to 1. We're going to see if we can get it to 9 to 6 by multiplying both sides by the same thing. So if I double both sides, we get 3 to 2, which is what we started with here. So now then, if I times by 3, we get 9 to 6. So Joe is correct as well. So I'm going to tick the both of them option. So both were correct. Question 13. 28 is increased by 25%. 40 is decreased by 15%. Which answer is bigger? Show how you decide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase 28 by 25% and I'm going to decrease 40 by 15% and then compare the answers. So if I'm increasing by 25%, I want 100% plus that additional 25%. So I want 125% in total. 125% as a multiplier is 1.25. So that's the multiplier I'm going to use to increase 28 by 25%. So if I multiply 28 by 1.25, it's a calculator paper. Gives me an answer of 35. So now I'm going to decrease 40 by 15%. So if I'm decreasing by 50%, I'm going to do 15%, sorry. I'm going to do 100% take away 15%. Well, 100 take away 15 is 85. So I'm looking for 85% of 40 because that will be 40 decreased by 15%. 85% as a multiplier is 0.85. So that's what I'm going to use to decrease 40 by 15%. So 40 multiplied by 0.85, again, it's a calculator paper, is 34. So now I need to compare them. Which is bigger? 35 is bigger than 34. So 28 increased by 25% is bigger than 40 decreased by 15%. Question 14. Factorise 12a, add 15b. So factorising is the opposite of expanding brackets. When we expand brackets, we get rid of the brackets. When we're factorising, we're going to put brackets in. And to put a bracket in, we need to find the highest common factor of 12a and 15b. Okay, so the highest common factor of 12 and 15, I think, is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, 15 divided by 3 is 3. There isn't another number that I can divide them both by. So I'm going to pop 3 on the outside because that's my highest common factor. The A and the B are different letters, so we can't include them in the highest common factor. So it's just 3 on the outside. And now I need to divide each of these terms by 3. So 12a divided by 3 would leave me with 4a. 15b divided by 3 would leave me with 5b. So that is my answer, 3. And then in brackets, 4a plus 5b. Question 15. Write down all the integers that satisfy the inequality -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 2. Okay, so integers is the important word. We only want whole numbers. Okay, so we only want whole numbers for this. Now this symbol, less than or equal to, means we can include the -3 in our list. So we're going to start with -3 and then we're going to count along towards 2. So -2, -1, 0 and 1. Now before we include 2, we need to check the symbol. This is a less than symbol, not a less than or equal to, so we're not going to include 2 in the list of integers that satisfies the inequality. Question 16. A linear sequence starts 7, 10, 13, 16. Work out an expression for the nth term of the sequence. So the first thing we're going to do is see what we're doing to get from one term to the next. So to get from 7 to 10, we add 3. 10 to 13, we add 3. 13 to 16, we add 3. So the sequence is going up by 3 every time. This tells us that it's a linear sequence like it says in the question. So we're going to start by writing 3n. And then we're going to compare this 3 to the first number in the sequence. What do we do to get from 3 to that first number 7? Well, we need to add 4. So our nth term is 3n plus 4. You can double check your answer. So if that's the first term, this is the second term. If we're to find the second term, 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 4 is 10. So we've double checked that our nth term rule is correct. Question 17. Jess saves 2p, 5p and 10p coins. She has 45 10p coins, 8 times as many 2p coins as 10p coins, and £17.70 in total. Work out the total value of 2p coins to the total value of 5p coins, giving your answer in its simplest form. Okay, so we have 45 10p coins. So 45 times 10p is 450p, which is £4.50 in 10p coins. There are 8. She has 8 times as many 2p coins as 10p coins. So if she's got 45 10p coins, 45 times 8. Remember, it's a calculator paper. Is 360. So Jess has 362p coins. So 360 times 0.02, that's the pound equivalent for 2p, is £7.20. So we know that there's £4.50 worth of 10p coins, £7.20 worth of £2 coins, 2p coins, sorry, and we're dealing with a £17.70 total. So £4.50 plus £7.20 is £11.70. So if I subtract that from £17.70, that leaves me with £6 that will be in 5p coins. Now, we don't need to know how many 5p coins. It just wants the total value of 5p coins and the total value of 2p coins. So this is our total value of 2p coins, and this is our total value of 5p coins. So we're going to write it in a ratio, the value of 2p coins to the value of 5p coins. So it'll be £7.20 to £6. And then we need to give our answer in its simplest form. Ideally, we don't want decimals in a ratio, unless we're writing it in a different form. We don't want decimals in this ratio. So what I'm going to do is divide by 1.2. So 7.2 divided by 1.2 is 6. And 6 divided by 1.2 is 5. So the answer is 6 to 5. Question 18. In a game, an ordinary fair six-sided dice is rolled. The fair spinner shown is spun. So we have a spinner, it's got 3 sections. This one is worth 2x, 3x, and then x squared. The score is the dice number substituted into the spinner expression. So we're going to roll a dice. Whatever number we get, we substitute it into the expression that the spinner lands on. So if we rolled a 1 and it had landed on 3x, we would do 3 times 1. It wants us to complete the table to show all of the possible scores. So this is part A. So all we're doing is we're substituting these values into these expressions. So remember, we've got a calculator to make life a little bit easier. So 2x, 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4 is already done, 2 times 5, 2 times 6, and then 3 times 1, 3 times 2 is already done, 3 times 3, 3 times 4, 3 times 5, 3 times 6, and then x squared, 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared is already done, and 6 squared. So we've completed the table for 2 marks. 18b. A player wins the game if their score is 10 or more. Work out the probability that they win the game. So we need to look back at this table to start off with. We're looking for scores of 10 or more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 scores that are 10 or more. So that's going to be the top of our fraction. So 8 that are 10 or more. And then we need how many scores there are in total possibly. So we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So the probability is 8 out of 18. Now it doesn't ask us to simplify it, so I'm going to write that directly on the answer line there. 18c. The game is played 711 times. Estimate the number of games that are won. So to estimate the number of games that are won, we're going to do the number of times it is played multiplied by the probability of winning. And it's a calculator paper, so I'm just going to pop that all into my calculator. So 711 multiplied by 8 over 18 is 316. So we estimate that 316 games were won. 19a. Part of a regular polygon is shown. Assume that the polygon is an octagon. So I know an octagon is 8 sides. Work out the size of angle X. So angle X is an exterior angle of this octagon. And exterior angles sum to 360 degrees. So if I'm trying to find one of them and it's a regular polygon, I know that all of the exterior angles are going to be the same size. So I'm going to do 360 divided by the number of sides. It's a calculator paper. 360 divided by 8 is 45. So each of those exterior angles is 45 degrees. 19b. In fact, the polygon has more sides than an octagon. What does this mean about the size of the angle x? Well, that means that the number we're going to be divided by is going to be bigger. So 360 divided by a bigger number. So this answer is just going to get smaller. So the answer will be less than the answer to part A. Question 20. Write down the translation vector that maps shape A onto shape B. So we're going from shape A to shape B. So I'm going to find a vertex, a corner of the shape, find the corresponding corner on the new shape that we're mapping it to, and now I'm just going to plot the journey. So I want to see how far along it's gone. So I'm aiming to get to here, directly opposite. So 1, 2, 3, 4, checking that scale. There, it's definitely going in 1. So it's gone 4 to the right and then 1, 2, 3 down. So in terms of our translation vector, it's the long brackets, the tall brackets. The movement left or right goes on the top. We've gone right, so it's a positive movement of 4. But we've gone down 3, so it's a negative 3 underneath. Question 21. So first of all, we're given the formula for the volume of a sphere. So it's 4/3 multiplied by pi multiplied by r cubed, r being the radius of the circle or the hemisphere sphere. So a bowl is a hemisphere, which is half of a sphere with a radius of 12. So we've been given that value r there, look. Water is poured into the bowl at a rate of 325 centimetres cubed per second for 8 seconds. Does the water fill more than 70% of the bowl? You must show your working out. So first thing we need to do is find the volume of this bowl. Okay, so they've given us the formula for the volume of a sphere, but we've got half of a sphere here, so we're going to have to find that volume and then half it. So we're going to start by substituting. So volume equals 4/3 multiplied by pi multiplied. So the radius cubed, the radius is 12. So we're going to put 12 cubed. And then we're going to pop that in our calculator. So we've got 4/3 multiplied by pi multiplied by 12 to the power of 3. And then we're going to press equals. So this is our volume, 7,238.2294. I'm writing the whole value down. I don't want to round at this point, just in case rounding causes any little errors later on. This is the volume of a full sphere. We've got half of a sphere, so let's divide that by 2. So when we divide this by 2, we get 3,619.114737. So that's the volume of the hemisphere, of the bowl. Okay, and that's in centimetres cubed, which is important to note here. So it says water's poured into the bowl at a rate of 325 centimetres cubed per second for 8 seconds. So let's see how much would get filled in 8 seconds. So 8 times 325 tells us that after 8 seconds we'd have 2,600 centimetres cubed filled in that bowl. It wants to know if more than 70% of the bowl is filled. So we need to figure out if this value is more than 70% of the total volume of the bowl. So let's work it out. We've got 2,600 over our volume. And then we're going to multiply it by 100. So 2,600 over 3619.114737 multiplied by 100 gives us 71.84077292. That's our percent, because we're dealing with the amount that we have out of the total amount multiplied by 100. So 71% is more than 70%, so you can just say yes at the end there. Question 22. Show that these two rectangles are similar. So for these two rectangles to be similar, they will have a scale factor that's the same. That gives them a proportional relationship. So we're going to find the scale factor for these shapes and see if it is the same. So if I was using these two corresponding sides, the larger divided by the small, so 8 divided by 5 gives us a scale factor of 1.6 for the width of the rectangle. So let's check if it's the same for the length, because if we get the same scale factor, they're similar. If we don't, then they're not similar, because that scale factor would multiply all of the lengths to make the new similar shape. So now we're going to do 19.2 divided by 12. Again, that is 1.6. Same scale factor, so similar. Question 23. A factory packs X boxes of tea bags per hour. Each box contains 80 tea bags. Show that the factory packs 4x over 3 tea bags per minute. Okay, so they've told us that in 1 hour we can pack X boxes. So 1 hour means we have 80 times X tea bags, because each of those X boxes contains 80 tea bags. And that's in 60 minutes, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and we're aiming to work in minutes here, aren't we? So after 60 minutes, there are 80x tea bags. So after 1 minute, which is what we're aiming for, the per minute, if we divide by 60, we have 80x over 60 tea bags. So we're going to simplify this expression here now. So I can divide the top and the bottom by 10. So I get 8x over 6. And then 8 and 6 can both be divided by 2, which gets me to 4x over 3. So I've shown that 4x divided by 3 tea bags per minute are packed by that factory.